Canada, we find that they're charging us over 200% for dairy products. You know about that. And when I left, we had that well taken care of. But under Biden, they just kept raising it. Very difficult to deal with the Canadian representatives. 250% for dairy products, tariff. So where do you hear that? You don't hear that. They have a tremendously high tariff. Give you the exact numbers in a little while coming out on lumber. So they sell us lumber. They have a tremendous tariff. They make it impossible for us to sell lumber or dairy products into Canada, but our numbers are a tiny fraction of that, almost non-existent. And what we're doing is freeing up our forests from the environmental nonsense that they put on them, where you can't cut down a tree. And we have to cut down trees in order to build the firewalls. And those trees are sold, but we're freeing it up on an emergency basis because Canada has been ripping us off for years on tariffs for lumber and for dairy products. 250%, nobody ever talks about that. 250% tariff, which is taking advantage of our farmers, so that's not gonna happen anymore. They'll be met with the exact same tariff unless they drop it. And that's what reciprocal means. And we may do it as early as today, or we'll wait till Monday or Tuesday. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to charge the same thing. It's not fair. Never has been fair.
Matt, where exactly are we with tariffs? What's the status of these tariffs today?
Yeah, it's incredibly confusing. It feels like every hour almost there's a new tariff that is threatened or dialed back or delayed. I haven't looked at my phone in 90 seconds, so I might have missed another tariff threat on Truth Social. But look, 20% tariffs on China, that did kick in on Tuesday. There's also 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico, excluding autos and products that are compliant with the USMCA trade agreement. 10% tariff on Canadian energy and potash, which is a compound used to make fertilizer that American farmers need. But look, there's more tariffs that are on the way. Maybe. I mean, the president has threatened to impose new tariffs on steel and aluminum imports next week. Early April, there's tariffs that loom potentially on products from the European Union. On autos, there's the reciprocal tariffs. And then later on this year, potentially tariffs on copper and lumber, timber, semiconductors. You mentioned the new tariffs that were just threatened today on Canadian dairy products as well. We've seen trade policy uncertainty just go through the roof. There's an index that tracks that. It's the highest it's ever been going back to 1960. And so right now, everyone's trying to make sense of it all, right? It's a lot of uncertainty and chaos for investors, for CEOs, and for small business owners to try to make sense of. Boris?
Matt Egan, thank you so much for that update. Let's bring in Vanessa Yurkevich now. Vanessa, obviously markets don't like volatility, even though Trump says he's not watching the markets.
Well, certainly. A lot of people are watching the markets, though, and what we've seen most of the day is that markets were down on the news of this sort of weaker than expected jobs report. But if we look at the numbers now, they're up again. And this is just, though, a moment, a snapshot in what has been a very volatile week on Wall Street. And potentially why they are up right now is because the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, was at an event earlier today, and he said that despite these levels of uncertainty, the U.S. economy is actually in a good place and that we just need to wait and see. So when you have the Fed chair making a comment like that the economy is still working well, it is still doing well, that might have calmed some nerves on Wall Street. But of course, this has been an up and down week. There are more, obviously, losses than gains this week. And next week is a brand new week where we might hear about new tariffs, and certainly the market will react to that. But as it stands right now, you have the Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ all just slightly up at this moment.
It's got to also be difficult to be a business owner when you have trade policy going topsy-turvy like this. What have business leaders that you've been talking to shared about what their planning is like?
Yeah, I've been speaking to business owners all week in Mexico, in the U.S., and Canada. And the way they describe it is that it's a logistical nightmare. I spoke to one Canadian flour company that imports to the U.S., and they said that they initially on Tuesday put a tariff tax in place, and then they had to remove it 2 days later. And Boris, that involved having to refund customers and also having to explain to customers what was going on while having to pay credit card fees in the process. For many businesses, they like planning at least 2 weeks out. And this day-to-day, hour-to-hour flip-flopping, they've told me that this is just simply exhausting right now.
Vanessa Yurkevich, thank you so much for that. Brianna?
Let's talk more about what this means for jobs and the economy with Ben Bergman. He's a senior correspondent at Business Insider. And Ben, it's kind of a tariff yo-yo this week, so I'm going to summarize it. Yes, tariffs. Wait, not for Mexico. Wait, not for cars. Yes, for Canada. Wait, no for Canada. Now, just today, it's wait, yes for Canadian lumber and dairy, 250% because they're doing it to us. What is the effect of all of that craziness?
Well, what do investors and businesses hate more than anything? It's uncertainty. And Boris just asked about the effect on businesses. I was just texting with my mother before this. She owns a small parenting magazine called Seattle's Child. They print it in Canada. She just got an email from her printer that they're increasing the prices by 3%. That was on Wednesday. Then President Trump said he's delaying that by a month yesterday. But they're not just going to be able to go back and forth. So I think businesses would really like to just know what is happening. Same with investors. The uncertainty is very difficult to deal with.
What is, bigger picture here, the emerging picture of the Trump economy between these jobs reports, the tariffs, and the market reaction to all of it?
The emerging picture is one of just tremendous uncertainty.
As President Trump walks back tariffs on most products from Mexico and Canada again, Canada says retaliatory tariffs will stay in place until that pause is permanent. CNN's John King went to visit our northern neighbors as part of his All Over the Map series to hear what the Canadians think about the president and his tariffs.
This is American steel in Western Canada for custom finishes. One belt is to burn a few notches and drill a few holes. Another to weld some angled braces. Soon back on a rail car and back across the border for an office project in Alaska. It is a partnership that supports 100 jobs here at AI Industries in Surrey, British Columbia. This just one piece of nearly $800 billion a year in trade between the United States and Canada. Now, though, a partnership in peril because of President Trump's insistence on new tariffs.
He wants to show that U.S. is strong, and because I'm bigger than you are, I can bully you around, and this is how I'm going to do it.
Trump paused the tariffs Thursday, just 2 days after imposing them. Another about face. Yes, Walgie prefers no tariffs, but he says weeks of threats and contradictions from Trump make it impossible to plan and are already hurting both economies.
Even with the threat of tariffs, prices have gone through the roof and they've gone higher. So we're seeing right now, when we're bidding a job today versus we're bidding it 3 months ago, our cost has gone up almost 15%.
British Columbia is a living postcard. Scenic mountains and gorgeous waters. The importance of trade is everywhere you look. Canadian lumber waiting at river's edge, rail cars to carry Canadian crude oil, crops, and more. The bustling Pacific Rim port of Vancouver.
You'll watch it for 8 hours. You'll see on average we've got 10 ships arriving and 10 ships leaving. We did about 160 million tons of cargo last year. 75% of that is those bulk commodities, grain, coal, potash, sulfur, and other agricultural products outbound.
Peter Exotta is the port CEO. He says shippers who normally plan 6 or 9 months out are now taking things a few weeks at a time because Trump is so unpredictable. And he says Trump's threats and his tone leave Canada no choice but to find new markets, new partners.
It's been a wake-up call, right? It's been a wake-up call for Canadians that we need to figure out a way to not be as dependent.
This rift goes beyond what Canadians see as Trump's bad math. They are furious at his bad manners, his constant insults, calling Canada the 51st state and its prime minister governor.
We've been in this together for a long time. We fought wars together. We went to Afghanistan. We did all this stuff together. Why? What are you doing here?
Darrell Lamb is the brand manager at Legacy Liquors. Yes, this too is a front in the new trade war.
There's yellow rose right there from Texas right there.
So, is it popular?
It is.
And if this goes into effect, you can't sell this.
It'll be off the shelf.
It's gone.
Tito's Vodka too. also from Texas.
Diagram of a trade war?
The Premier of British Columbia says if Trump imposes tariffs, he will ban sales of alcohol from states that Trump won that also have a Republican governor.
We've gone through this before with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We were asked to remove all Russian products from our shelves.
Lamb says some customers rushed to stockpile American favorites, but others want all American products off the shelves.
So mad at Trump for what he's saying about Canada that they're saying, get it out of here.
No, 100%. Absolutely. I'm just worried about this eternal relationship that we've had for 200 plus years being soured for 4.
Vikram Vinayak is a short-haul truck driver, carrying berries destined for the United States on this run.
What are other loads that are pretty typical?
Nursery, trees, auto parts, and produce. Sometimes we pick frozen fish.
How much of your work or products that you know are going to end up in the United States?
More than 80-90% of our loads are going to U.S.
As many as 5 runs a day, 40 to 50 hours a week. But tariffs will cut shipments to the United States and cut Vinayak's hours.
You have a wife and 2 daughters?
Yes.
And so what does that mean about planning? Thinking maybe we won't make a vacation or maybe we won't buy something? What is it?
No, just planning is nothing. The main thing is how to get out of this situation by finding another job.
Does that make you mad? You might have to find another job. Do you like this job?
Yeah, I love this job.
One of many jobs now at risk because of a U.S.-Canada relationship Trump just shifted into reverse. John King, CNN. Sorry, British Columbia.
A whiplash in trade policy here at the White House has sent the stock market reeling for the last several days. President Trump adjusting course on the Canada and Mexico tariffs specifically, offering on Thursday yet another month-long reprieve, a day after he offered automakers a similar reprieve. Now, there is no question the financial markets have been wondering what exactly this White House is up to.
You can see that Canada's not taking their foot off the gas pedal. I've said this is critical. I was critical of the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party in this country because they did not take Trump seriously. All the way back in 2016, 2017, the leader of the NDP at the time, different guy than Jagmeet Singh, but most NDPers supported it. They called Trump a fascist before mainstream media in either country caught on. And there's a lot of criticism when he did that. That was Tom Mulcair. He said, the guy's a fascist. And he was right. He was right. Right? Trump hadn't had all the years to prove it, but you could smell it 5 years into the future, right? And so now it's the same thing. People thought Trump was joking about the 51st state comments. I knew he wasn't joking. Progressives in Canada knew. The point now is everybody's pushing. And this is critical because America has a lot of things that Canada doesn't. A much bigger military, much bigger population. Your people are more spread out than they are in Canada. We live on a narrow strip right near the border. But one thing Canada has right now that the United States doesn't is a unified purpose. Trump is dividing his country. He has the United States more divided than at any point in generations. But he has united Canada, he's united Mexico, and he's united people all over the world on this late night bombshell to try and stop him.